Hello and welcome to another very special episode of Marcelle is Eating Soup.
We're just jumping right in, huh?
You hit record.
I did.
Soup. This isn't actually a soup-based podcast. This is Material Concerns.
Could be a soup-based podcast.
It could be a soup-based podcast, but I'm one of those misophonia guys, so it would have to be... As Marcelle puts down her chopsticks. Slurp off mic. No, this is a kind of episode where we answer questions. Is that good? I'm sorry. My back. I'm Hannah. You're Marcelle.
I'm Marcelle.
My back is troubling me.
Oh no.
And right, I hurt. For people who don't know, I hurt my back very badly last year, and it's been totally good for a long time, but then I stopped going, like I just neglected it a bit. Like I've been busy, and this is how it happens, and I've been having a lot of work stress and a lot of personal life stress, and then I had my dad was visiting, and then I was like staying at a friend's place taking care of her kids, and I wasn't going to Pilates, and I was sleeping on a different bed, and anyway, it went into spasm today.
Oh, no.
And so I took a muscle relaxant and slept for most of the afternoon.
Okay.
So I currently feel insane.
Oh.
How are you?
I'm okay. I mean, are we getting real?
Are we starting this off so real?
Is this so real?
Decide how real you want to be on the main feed and then how real you want to be on the Patreon.
Well, I learned today that a student of mine passed away.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
And that's never happened to me before.
Yeah.
And that's so I feel I'd feel really complicated about that. It's not a student that I knew well at all, but it is something that, like, I feel like anytime you find out that somebody that you had a relationship with passes away, that's complicated. And
it's sad and hard and complicated.
So that's how I'm doing. I had a strange day because of it. And you know,
being a person, man, I gotta say, having to do all the emotional stuff, but then also have this shambling meat body you have to maintain.
Oh yeah,
it's outrageous.
Yeah, it's a lot. And sometimes your meat body like yells at you in these ways that like, man, when they say that the body keeps the score.
Yeah, just a girl standing in front of a body asking it to stop keeping the score. Like, that's me.
I didn't know that. I thought this was a practice round.
I thought we were just playing for fun. Oh my God.
So yeah, it's a weird day. Weird day.
Weird day.
A lot of feelings.
Weird day.
Yeah. So what do you want to? What do you think we should do here, Hannah? Should we answer some questions?
Okay. You want to choose one first?
Yeah, I do.
Maybe let's start with something notebook specific.
Oh, yes.
Don't you love me giving you a choice and then telling you what to do? Do you want to choose one first? Choose this way.
I love it almost as much as you love it when I eat soup on mic.
Oh, man. Man. Two great tastes that taste great together. Soup and bossiness.
Okay. This is a great question, and I literally don't know what the answer would be, so it's good that I get to ask it.
Uh-oh.
Hey, Hannah.
Yeah?
Jesse VDLD asks, is Duke/Noah a reliable narrator? How does that figure into the failed melodrama?
Oh, that's fun. That's really fun. Okay, so we are talking about Ryan Gosling's character in The Notebook. Ryan Gosling / that other person.
James Garner.
James Garner. Great job. Ooh.
Marcelle 1. Hannah 1.
-100. Yeah, who is the person who is telling us the story, except that the notebook he is reading from was actually written by Allie. And that's something we see right at the end, is that, like, I think we're sort of being encouraged to see it as him telling the story, and then the revelation at the end is that, like, actually it's just him reading her version of their story back to her,
Mm-hmm.
and I do think that does interesting things to his positioning as a narrator,
Mm-hmm.
because it kind of takes him out of the driver's seat, right? It's like he is literally only narrating. Like, he's literally just the narrative voice.
Mm-hmm.
She is the one who made the decisions about how to frame their life together.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, in the context of the frame narrative, she is a character who has lost, like, most of her agency,
Mm-hmm.
and who he is, like, pretty actively undermining her agency by, like,
Say more.
he is constantly insisting on pushing, like, present day Allie in ways that she clearly does not wanna, like, ways that make her feel
Mm.
scared,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, he's pushing her. I mean, we talked about this in the episode, right? Like, none of this is medically sound as a way of relating to a person with dementia. Like, you do you
You don't
it's
force
all
them
very.
to listen to you until they freak out. Like,
Yeah, it's
no.
very, very bad. So, I think that there's a lot of complexity there around, like, narrative power and narrative voice and reliability, and, like, what kind of version of their story are we getting? What's getting left out? I mean, he might be reading her story as she wrote it, but, like, we don't know if he's skipping chapters. We don't know. We don't know any of that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and, in relation to, I think, thinking of it as, like, a melodrama of failure, I think that that idea, right? This is sort of a melodramatic narrative that has potentially a lot of gaps in it that can let us
Mm-hmm.
as viewers find these sort of fail points within melodrama as a, like, framing conceit.
Mm-hmm.
I think, like, his narrative status, his status as somebody reading a story that he himself did not write, gives us another one of those potential openings,
Mm-hmm.
like another way of sort of decentering the white male protagonist and the fantasy of total agency and total sovereignty. But again, like, they're just these sort of interesting little gaps
Mm.
in a story that otherwise ultimately is like the magic of his sheer willpower overcame dementia.
Also, life.
Overcame life?
Yeah, because they died together
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough.
when they decided to, of natural causes.
Whew. Wild.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely wild. Marcelle, I'm going to ask you another notebook question.
Oh, goody.
This one is about filmic paratext, in
Ooh.
fact, which we talked about in our episode about Wicked.
Mm-hmm.
This is from Fredman, who asks, did I miss it, or did you not talk about the award show kiss they did? They being Ryan Gosling and
Rachel McAdams.
Rachel McAdams.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. You can really see the muscle relaxing at work right now.
You can
Uh,
only remember Ryan Gosling's name.
I can only remember Ryan Gosling's name, and it's only because somebody wrote it in one of the questions.
It's not because deep down you're a heterosexual.
Imagine. The question continues. Because I never saw the movie, but I know of that kiss scene from the movie, from the video of that onstage award show makeout, a bisexual's dream, incidentally. So, Marcelle, do you know the kiss to which they are referring, and do you have any thoughts about its relationship to the Notebook?
Like, do they kiss at the award show?
Yeah.
Oh, I
Yeah.
didn't
And it's this
I
kind of
didn't know.
famous awards show kiss that I think is MTV Movie Award for Best Kiss. As you may recall, the MTV Movie Awards had a Best Kiss category.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the only other movie I remember winning for Best Kiss was that Tobey Maguire Kirsten Dunst kiss in one of the Spider-Men,
Mm.
where he's upside down and she's right side up and it's raining. That also won Best Kiss.
That's bonkers.
Yeah. So this one is like, you know, one of the iconic kisses in the movie. But
Mhm.
in the awards show, they do this thing where like they come up on stage and then they kind of like give each other this look and walk to opposite sides of the stage.
Mhm.
And then Rachel McAdams, I think she's wearing like a like pants and a bustier,
Okay.
and she like kind of shimmies it up a little bit, and then they reenact the kiss,
Oh.
which is like them, so like her run, I think her running and him walking quickly because men aren't allowed to run,
Yeah, don't run.
and then she leaps into his arms.
Mhm.
They iconically recreate the kiss on stage,
Okay.
and that was like a really important cultural moment that like strongly linked the movie, which is itself, you know, like old fashioned and like kind of conservative in some ways.
Mhm.
Like it linked it with these two young, sexy, charismatic, funny, interesting
Mhm.
movie stars, right? Doing something like a little risque on
Right.
stage with a little bit of humor in it.
Mhm.
And that dynamic and, you know, the sort of classic, they ended up dating, right?
I was gonna ask if they were dating when they reenacted the kiss, because I feel like it would have been really awkward to have done that kiss after they stopped dating, but I do know that Ryan Gosling is famously an excellent ex-boyfriend. Like,
Oh,
he's sort of infamous for maintaining, like, healthy, positive again, this is all from, like, Gossip News, like, who fucking knows if this is actually true? I've never had a conversation with Rachel McAdams, but he's sort of infamous for being like a respectful ex-boyfriend. He always speaks publicly, like very respectfully of his former
yeah.
beaux.
I love to hear it. They dated from 2005 until 2007. And this was in 2005. So yeah, they might have been dating at the time.
Okay.
Yeah. Here, let me read you this Vanity Fair description of the kiss,
Okay.
which the Vanity Fair piece points out has significantly more like long-term media impact, like is more widely shared online than the scene from the movie, which is
Okay.
interesting.
That is interesting.
Quote, before accepting the honor for 2005's Best On-Screen Lip Lock, Gosling and McAdams remove their respective black blazers from opposite sides of the MTV Awards stage. She adjusts her strapless corset top as he beckons her closer. Gosling then hoists McAdams into his arms for a steamy kiss as she wraps her legs around his torso.
Goodness.
The camera pans to Lindsay Lohan and Hilary Duff, once sworn enemies, who are united in their overjoyed reactions. Gosling visibly chews gum as he carries McAdams to the podium, where his and hers golden popcorn trophies await them. In lieu of an acceptance speech, Gosling offers a perfectly timed, "It was my pleasure." End quote.
What a sassy minx.
This is absolutely a sassy minx.
My goodness.
So let's go back to the
So yeah,
question.
what was
that
the
we
what was the question again? Goodness. Tell me more about Ryan Gosling and Rachel McAdams
Uh,
kissing.
yeah, sorry. Actually, looking now, there's not really a question.
There's something about a bisexual's dream,
Yeah,
something.
the question was essentially, did I miss it or did you not talk about it?
We didn't
We
talk
didn't
about
talk
it.
about it, but now we have.
Shame on
So,
us. But now you're welcome.
yeah,
Yeah.
it supports the general argument we were making in the episode that it's the charisma between these two leads that
Mhm.
really sells the movie and makes it endure a lot more than a lot of other Nicholas Sparks adaptations. Like, I kind of
Totally.
think this is the only one that has proven to have any real staying power
Mhm.
as a movie.
Yeah.
And I think it really is about these performances and the fact that people like still remember that kiss, like
Yeah.
that sort of real life kiss is part of, or like a significant part of the sort of endurance of this movie,
Mhm.
is a reminder of like the really important role that filmic paratexts play and how we actually remember films.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's like we're rooting for Ryan and Rachel,
Hmm.
you know? We don't really care about Noah and Allie.
Yeah. And like, there's this way that in the actual narrative of the movie, Noah and Allie are dead.
Yeah.
Like, they're dead, and also they were old and now they're dead.
Yeah.
And, like, those characters lived in the 40s.
Mm-hmm.
There's a significant divide there. And so getting to transpose all of that yearning
Mm-hmm.
and charisma and flirtation into a contemporary couple,
Mm-hmm.
like, sort of shortens that representational distance.
Totally. See, you're doing great, even with muscle relaxants. My goodness.
Off camera, I was doing this to indicate shortening,
Burp, burp, burp.
sort of making a little dog with my hand.
There are a couple more melodrama questions.
Okay, let's talk about melodrama a little more.
Okay, Hannah.
Yeah.
Memp7 wants to know, where is the line between melodrama and camp? This is a juicy question.
It's so fun. It's such a fun question. Like, indecipherable, I would say, the line. Melodrama has a commitment to self-seriousness that lends it very, very well to camp. Because one of the premises of camp is that it has to be taking itself seriously. It can't be, like, at least, according to Susan Sontag, that it has to be taking itself seriously. It can't be
Ironic?
ironic or,
Mhm.
like, have this sort of distance or this winking quality in terms of how it's performed originally. Like, it has to just be, like, full on committed.
Mhm.
And so melodrama is really available to campification because of that seriousness. And I think some melodrama becomes camp in terms of how it is taken up and circulated culturally,
Mhm.
because camp is also often not a sort of inherent quality to a work of art. It's about how it's read and how it's sort of made use of.
So that kiss, is that kiss camp? Or is it nam?
Camp or Namp. This is a game that Marcelle invented for our live session on camp at
Camp.
camp. Yeah. Marcelle, I don't think we've actually done an episode about camp.
Well, hot diggity dog.
Yeah, like, I think we actually probably should, huh?
Yes. Yes,
Yeah.
please.
Yeah, we
Oh
just
my
have to
God.
decide what the campy thing would be.
We already did Star Wars. I love talking about Star Wars as camp, but we can't do Star Wars again. We already did Star Wars.
Of course we can.
Yeah? We can do whatever we want.
We can do whatever we want. It's our podcast.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so, when I think about a lot of, like, camp icons, it's like actresses from the heyday of melodrama
Mm-hmm.
giving these, like, very heightened performances that are leaning into these sort of emotional extremes of melodrama, that are leaning into, the really heightened and over the top plot scenarios that melodrama often features,
Mm-hmm.
that are leaning into the, like, simple emotions, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
and these narratives that are so often about, like, a person just, like, benighted on every side by terrible circumstances, right? And, like, a lot of these performances become camp performances.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think if there's any characteristics to melodramas that make them less available to camp. And I do think melodramas that are, like, more explicitly politically conservative are less likely to be
Mm.
campy, like, are less likely to get taken up in the camp space, which has a lot to do with, like, what ages well and what doesn't age well and what sort of can be appropriated and how. Like, when I think about melodramas that become campy, I think a lot of them are about women's internal lives.
Okay.
And I think that that's, like, maybe has something to do with like what kinds of melodramas can be like taken up and put to different purposes. But like ultimately, I think it's less that there's a line between camp and melodrama and more that like camp is a different way of describing what melodrama is often doing.
Oh, I like that. That's a fun way to think about the line between melodrama and camp.
Yeah, because I think in our best, God, it's the one that I keep thinking about? What's eating Baby Jane? Whatever happened to Baby Jane?
Whatever happened to sweet Baby Jane?
Whatever happened to Baby Jane is a horror drama.
Yeah.
That is just like two women in a house.
Yeah.
Having heightened emotional experiences.
Yeah.
And it's so camp.
And yet it was revolutionary for its time because the two actresses were in their, 50s? It was like, oh my God, two old-ass bitches on screen?
Can you believe it?
This movie is revolutionary. They're both old. I don't want to fuck either of them.
Okay, I'm going to ask you, Marcelle, a Ryan Gosling question.
Oh, goody.
Since I know you are familiar with his work.
I am familiar with Gosling's oeuvre.
His oeuvre. So this is from Rice Pud, who asks, Ryan Gosling in Notebook and Barbie as male lead? How?
I mean, there are so many potential answers to this question, Rice Pud. The one that I ponder first is perhaps you do not find him visually appealing. That might be what's behind the how question.
And by extension, a really interesting shift in his sort of positioning as an actor, because he was cast in The Notebook because they wanted somebody who was not traditionally attractive. Like, it was like, you are not like a handsome movie star type. Right? Like James Marsden is like classic Hollywood good looks hunk.
Totally.
And Ryan Gosling's supposed to be the kind of weirdo who she's like drawn to despite herself. And so he has undergone a shift in the intervening almost 2 decades from being somebody who is cast because he's weird looking to Ken. So like, how do you account for that, Marcelle?
We simply must start from the premise that what is considered attractive shifts, right? That those qualities shift over time. I also think it is not surprising that Ryan Gosling's reputation as a very genuinely kind, respectful man has helped in reconstructing what we think of when we think of like a hot man. Like, I think
that's really interesting.
Personally, that is in large part what makes him attractive to me.
And what makes him sort of castable as a hunk in like an explicitly feminist movie.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. Right. He's also very charismatic on screen. And so I also wonder if it's one of those situations where even if like a picture of him you can look at objectively and be like, this is not a handsome person, he is very captivating on screen, in part because he maintains eye contact in a way that's like, at one point there was like a whole YouTube video of like just scenes where Ryan Gosling characters like maintain eye contact with the camera.
Do you watch that when you are having some alone time?
I never have alone time. I don't know what you mean, Hannah. I don't know.
Yeah, that's fair. You're busy.
I don't know what you're referring to. I'm simply too busy to fantasize about Ryan Gosling via YouTube. Okay, so the only other thing that I would maybe add is that I think Ryan Gosling's performance in Barbie is wonderful.
Splendid.
To me, he looks a little old. You know, people talk about Jonathan Bailey as Fiyero, and they're like, he looks like an adult man. That's how I feel looking at Ryan Gosling as Barbie. Like, I feel like I can see the wrinkles on his forehead. It's like, Ken doesn't have wrinkles. So to go back to like what you were saying earlier, Hannah, about like his castability in an explicitly feminist movie, like he's the right actor for the role because of the type of person that, again, we don't know him personally, but his reputation is that he's a respectful, good person.
Yeah. His sort of what Anne Helen Peterson would call like his star image.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
So in sum, I think that he, as an individual, has played a huge role in reshaping what we think of as conventionally attractive for a heterosexual white man. And I think that his charisma,
his uniqueness,
his
nerve, and his talent. Sorry, that was a RuPaul's Drag Race reference. Okay. Those are the 4 qualities that a drag queen needs to have: charisma, uniqueness, nerve, and talent.
Well,
you know what that spells
nerve
together, Marcelle.
Uniqueness, charisma.
Wrong order. Charisma, uniqueness.
Oh, yes. The word that I scolded my student for saying in class.
Well, yeah, that's reasonable. You shouldn't say cunt in class.
Well, to his credit, he said cunty. And his classmates were like, you can't say that. And I was like, what did he say? What? What did he say? I didn't hear it up here. Okay, Joel, say it again.
Can I add 2 things to this Ryan Gosling conversation?
Yes.
Thing 1 is that I just finally watched The Fall Guy.
Oh.
And I think it is such a perfect example of the kind of character he can play because of his star image and his positioning, which is that he is this like super, super hunky stuntman. And that's what, you know, he's super built and we see him with his shirt off all the time. My friend Hillary describes the way that he's shot in that movie as obscene. She's also a Ryan Gosling fan.
Hot.
And his entire character arc is that he is in love with Emily Blunt and she is directing her first major feature film. And he will let himself get the absolute shit beaten out of him on a daily basis because her career matters and he wants to support the work that she wants to do.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like, he's not swooping in and saving the day. He is getting the shit beaten out of him to try to support her career in a material way.
I love that. And you're right. The star power is huge for that, right? You can't cast Jake Gyllenhaal in that role because you don't
believe it. You'll never believe it.
We all know he still has Taylor's scarf.
Give her fucking scarf back, Jake.
What was the other thing? Yeah.
The other thing, which is less fun, is about the way that male bodies and the expectations for male bodies have shifted in the last 20 years via predominantly, I would say, the Marvelification of the cinematic gaze, you know, that has like maybe like slightly shifted expectations around female bodies, but not really heightened them because expectations around female bodies were already like for all of cinema have been bonkers.
Yeah.
But the expectation now is that to be a male movie star, you have to look like a Marvel hero. And the face kind of doesn't matter that much as long as the body's doing what it's supposed to. And the body should look like somebody who has never heard of carbohydrates and does like 300 chin-ups a day in the gym, right? Like it's this really, and when I think about, you know, another icon of bisexual awakening, Brendan Fraser, and I think about like, he is a beautiful man. And he did the most unforgivable thing you can do in Hollywood, which is he got fat.
Yeah.
And despite the fact that he is still extremely attractive, he will not get to play anything but sad, fat characters.
Yeah.
Your face could be so fucking janky. And if your body looks the way, I'm not saying Ryan Gosling's face is so janky, but like, as long as you're,
You did say that you said that he got cast because he's weird looking. So not janky, but weird looking.
That was the director's specific claim.
Yes, you are simply reiterating.
I'm just reporting.
You're just the messenger.
Don't shoot the messenger. I think Ryan Gosling is very good looking. But I also think Brendan Fraser is very good looking.
Right.
And he will not be allowed to be cast as somebody who is good looking because he is fat.
Right.
He can only wear a suit to make himself even fatter. And make movies about dying from being fat. Right? So there's also this like expectations or norms around male bodies and masculinity are also shifting. And so it's really interesting to see this like sort of gentle masculinity being really celebrated. And at the same time, you know, reading stories about how like all of the guys on the set of Barbie were like going to the gym 3 hours a day and like competing with each other to see who could like lift the most things or whatever you do at the gym. Right? So it's like you gotta also play this like very particular game.
Yeah. It's not better now that it's similarly applied to men and women. Just to be clear, that didn't solve the problem.
But it's so funny. I feel like we have these cultural moments over and over again that are mostly about men, which are like, oh my God, everybody, are we crazy or is this person kind of hot? And it's like, I kind of feel like that. I mean, maybe I'm not, this is anecdotal. I don't feel like that happens with women. Like, we don't have a female equivalent of Rat Boy Summer. Remember Rat Boy Summer?
I missed it completely. I knew that it was happening, but I don't know who, I don't know when, I don't know why, and I don't know where. That's none of my business.
Rat Boy Summer was about this like, oh my God, can you believe everybody finds like these characters sexy? And it's like Timothée Chalamet.
I was gonna guess Timothée Chalamet.
Yeah. And what's his face? The chef from that show about being a chef.
Oh, Jeremy Allen White.
Great job. And like the boys in Challengers.
Oh, yeah. Not my type.
And you know, maybe we would put a younger Adam Driver in the Rat Boy category. But it's this like,
yeah, okay.
I feel like we don't have similar media moments that are like, oh my God, everybody's
yeah.
I mean, maybe the equivalent is like when it's like everybody wants women to be thin and then suddenly we're into butts. And it's like, oh my God, look at this, we're into butts. Like maybe those are similar moments, but like we're like constantly having these moments, I think particularly with sort of the rise of social media and online fandoms of like, here's who Hollywood is telling us is hot. And then here's who people actually find hot. And they're not always the same thing.
Yeah.
And so there's this like, oh, everybody's really, but then like they are casting these men in movies where they're playing romantic leads. So like how atypical are they? I don't know. Rat Boy Summer.
Honestly, I have so many thoughts about this. However, we simply don't have time.
We're going to have to, Marcelle, why don't we start the Patreon bonus with you telling me about some of your thoughts about this?
Oh, what a good idea. So, hey.
That's so fun. Be continued.
Hey, follow us over on Patreon.
Hey. Come on over to Patreon. Marcelle's going to tell us her opinions about Rat Boys.
Ooh.
Bye.